Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. I'm Sue, and you've just stepped into Entrepreneurs Gone Wild. Every week, I'll introduce you to a friend of mine, a remarkable entrepreneur who's not just changing the world, but also harnessing a secret weapon, time outdoors. Together, we'll dive into their journey, unpack invaluable business advice, and discover why embracing the wild is not just good for the soul, but also a goldmine for inspiration and innovation. Ready to uncover the secret that's boosting bottom lines and fueling joy? Hit subscribe and join us in the wild. Hello, I'm really glad you're here. I cannot wait for you to meet Aleasha Bahr. She is a new friend that I've met like last several months, and I love her. You're gonna love her, I guarantee, and she's so freaking smart. This is, you're gonna love it. So
it's so nice.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. All right, let me see. I've got to go into this other screen. I'm telling you, like I need a me. Like, okay.
Like someone to manage all the tech?
Yes, sometimes, because I'm just like, there's so many times I've done a video and there's no audio, or there's no, never went
That
live.
is the worst.
Yes, it is. Like, but man,
I put in all that effort and time and it's gone. I've done it too. I've done it
like
too.
I can read my lips. I know what I was saying.
The worst. There's no recovering. There's no salvaging it.
No, you're just done. You're just done.
With the wind.
All right, guys. Why I'm excited. So Stacey Lauren knows everybody. She knows the coolest people. So anytime you get a message from Stacey going, "Oh, you want to meet her?" Meet that person, because it's probably going to be like the most amazing thing that you've ever, it's fantastic. That's how I met Aleasha. So
Stacey is awesome.
It is. It's so cool. And like, you're my hero on these things. Like, I am learning to do sales, high ticket sales, like for my own thing, out of necessity, because what are you going to do? Right. But
right.
I always Aleasha's really good at this. She is still herself while she's selling. She knows how to do this. She has made this so you're kind of my role model. So.
I'm honored. Oh my gosh. I hope that I can hold that for you. And I would love to, I'm honored.
Well, it's you are one of the coolest people. So would you just, before I blah 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 all over, would you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes. So I'm Aleasha Bahr, the founder of Black Sheep Sales Method, because if it's a fit, it's a fact, and there's no selling involved. And I support service providers in creating a repeatable sales process, and then recruiting and hiring and placing a salesperson to repeat that process for you.
Isn't that something, guys? All right, so I will say, here is today, what is it? September 24th, 2024. I will be, like my arms are back, I can't see them, but I'm doing my little, I will be hiring Aleasha to do, this is my aspirational thing, so.
I can't wait, because you have an amazing retreat center.
I do. And then I got some services to help, free up entrepreneurs so they can actually come here or go outside at their own place. So it's just, it's going. So, but in the meantime, when I promoted this, I was like, everybody feels sleazy doing sales. Typically, there's got to be a better way. It has to be better than what the marketing bros are saying out there, because
Totally.
All right, let's do. I get so excited. I want to jump ahead and Kella, tell us all the things. But I'm gonna try to be orderly here. So,
okay.
What? How did you get here? What was your entrepreneurial story and your background?
Yeah, so I started selling digital advertising in corporate, and I was always what people call a natural at sales. So anyone who's a natural at sales, you'll ask them, "Oh, well, how do you sell so much?" Right? And they'll say, "Well, I don't really sell." And it's like, well, what does that mean? And what they're saying is that they don't sell anything to someone who doesn't need it. So their only goal in a sales conversation isn't to get a yes. And there's a lot more to it than that. But people who are naturals at sales, they don't have any reason to write it down. So I have actually written it down and put it into steps. That didn't happen at first, obviously. At first, I was just doing my thing. And it comes down to really just actually caring about the person, because you're not going to recommend something that's not going to be in their best interest. And I noticed that a lot of my clients weren't getting what was promised. And it was really awful to constantly apologize and see somebody's money wasted. And so I opened my own marketing agency. And I had it for about 3 to 4 years. And it was really successful, except that I then had to figure out how to scale it, which is a real beast. And you just end up like managing people, but not making more money and like having more stress. And I was just like, I don't really like that. And also, there's no good sales training. Like, everything recommended is really horrific. So I started offering sales services. And interestingly enough, sales strategy, I didn't know that I do these frameworks, because what I do is I will create the actual language and structure and strategy for somebody to run with, not like a word for a word script, because that's impossible. But a structure for the conversation. I didn't even know until I just started offering the sales strategy. And at first I was offering pay for performance, because it seems like such a no-brainer, right? Like, you don't pay me unless you make sales.
Sure.
Except people don't value something that's free, and they are not going to take your advice and do it, because it means that then they'll have to pay you money. Human psychology is weird.
Oh, that is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has to be some kind of blend, like a base with pay for performance or something like that. It can't be straight pay for performance, or people just do not show up. So it was a big evolution. It's been 5 years now of evolving, and now like actually putting this methodology in clear black and white words that anybody can follow, and in the form of a book that I'm publishing next month.
What's it called?
Black Sheep Sales: How to Win More Sales Without Acting Like a Douchebag.
I love that. That is so cool. Is it going to be on Amazon, or where's it going?
All of the places. So Amazon, but also for sale on my site. And I actually have like a free chapter, the chapter that most people love so much, that's available for download. It's pitch weaving, the pitch weaving chapter. So
good. All right. Well, we're getting those links later for sure, because that's awesome. So, oh my gosh, I'm so glad. All right. So how did you all right, you're doing this, you find out I mean, I think everybody who tries sales, I went through a high ticket thing. I had a position, I was doing like high ticket sales, because I loved the program. I loved the coach. I'd gotten great results. And I'm like, I had that feeling what if I'm a natural at this? I have to try it. What if I'm a natural? I can help all these people. Oh my gosh. I was not, in fact, a natural. Unless you consider eating Tums constantly.
Oh no.
No.
Yeah.
But, I think everybody has that kind of hidden, I wonder, maybe, what was, how did you know? I mean, obviously commissions, but were you noticing most people were turning green and eating Tums at their desk, and while you're like, oh, this is good. You're like, this is the easiest money I ever made, probably. How did you good?
Well, I did notice that there are different types of salespeople. So when somebody imagines, when somebody says they're bad at sales, they usually mean they're not this person that they imagine, that's really smooth and high energy and smiley and always has something to say. And there is that type of salesperson, but they're selling everyone regardless of whether it's in their best interests.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately that catches up with that person. And we're all a little skeptical of that person, because it's what we expect in a salesperson. So if you're not that person, you're a pattern interrupt, which builds a lot more trust. So, I mean, I definitely noticed that other people were different from me, but I was like, oh, they're just typical. And I actually care about my clients, and I'm going to take care of them. So I don't want to be anything like those people, because they're making money maybe, but at what cost, basically?
Right. Their soul, that's all.
Just no integrity or conscience. I mean, the way that they would talk about it sometimes, I was just like, wow, you really are very consciously aware of not giving a shit about this other person.
Decisions were made here.
Yeah, you just want to make money at anyone's expense. Okay. So, I mean, that was always the issue at corporate, was I have a theory that every entrepreneur is a previously labeled high performing but difficult employee. And they were difficult because they were like, hey guys, we could do this better. Like, what if we did this? And everyone's like, can you stop making us yeah, can you stop making us do stuff? Like, we're all just trying to collect a paycheck and go home. And I mean, eventually you just have to go do your own thing because you can't stand doing something so out of integrity.
Yeah. I think the human spirit can only take so much. I mean, thankfully, thankfully, if we're doing something that just feels like completely out of, like, we can't keep it up long. It's, it's not good, but some people do.
Some people do. That's the other thing is an entrepreneur is like, I can't play it safe. The expense is too high. It's my whole life of misery.
Yes.
And a lot of people convince themselves that staying safe is worth being miserable.
Yeah. Oh, that hits.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So you notice this about yourself, and then you start your business. Like, was that terrifying starting your business, or were you just like, this is the next obvious thing?
Well, with the marketing agency, I kind of built it on the side. So I'm definitely somebody who's like, I'm not like, ooh, jump in the net's going to catch you. I'm like, why not just test it first?
Smart.
Yeah, I had a lot of people who were interested. Like, I got it to a point where I was making the same, I could definitely replace my income. So that's when I switched over. And it was like especially because I'm married to someone who's very low risk tolerance. So in order for him to feel comfortable, those things needed to be in place. When I closed my marketing agency, though, that was less structured and planned. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And here's the thing that I was so surprised by, and I would bet a lot of people are surprised by when they become an entrepreneur, especially an online entrepreneur, but really any kind of business owner, is like, are we allowed to swear?
Oh, go ahead.
It's like, what a mind fuck it is. Yes. And you're just trying to figure out how to not sabotage yourself with made up self-doubt stories. And you slowly start to realize that you have absolute control over your life and creating what you want. And so the next question is, well, what the hell do I want?
Yeah.
And then you're like figuring it out. And so I had done the marketing agency enough to be like, I know that I don't want this. And I already changed things once. So I don't have to do this. And I'm going to change it again. And that time was less planned and measured. And it was very scary. And I spent a lot of money with somebody that I thought would help me.
Mm-hmm.
I put it on an no interest for a year credit card, $18,000. They did not help. I mean, they helped me in other ways. They were a business coach, but they ended up being a law of attraction coach. And I was like, that's a super different kind of thing. And of course, there were other gifts there for me. But I mean, it was really scary. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like not going to be able to do this. I have to go back and get a job. And at that point, I met somebody who was like, I will help you and you pay me after you like get your feet under you. And he helped me and I did it. And I had to switch from pay for performance.
Yeah, right.
To like monthly packages, like a recurring retainer type of situation for it to make sense. And so thank God I met him. And I mean, there's still been lots of like crazy, like, I mean, a lot of times when you talk to a sales expert, one of the things they did also was like sell on someone else's offer, which I did for a minute. Like you try a lot of bad things first.
Yes.
And since I did that, I knew how most businesses aren't set up for a salesperson at all. They're just like, it's your expertise, come in and do your thing. And it's like, what job do you do that with? Yeah. None of them except sales. So like that experience really helps me when I'm, setting the infrastructure to bring on a salesperson. I know what they need so that they can succeed from day one. And I'm not going to place a salesperson there if this stuff is not in place, because y'all are both going to leave frustrated.
That is so smart. Yes, 100%. Like I could see, like, that is a thing. People are like, and I know I've talked to people like, hey, if you want to come sell, like, I don't know how to sell this stuff. I'll leave that in your court. That's baloney. You have to have like certain things,
How about like some direction? Like, could I just get a direction? Like, They're just like, review my materials and come up with something. That is another service. Okay.
Yes.
Like that's a sales strategy and sales process creation. Like
exactly.
And so many salespeople all of a sudden have to do these like additional jobs.
Yeah, which is not their thing necessarily. Maybe they're great at it, but maybe not, you know.
A lot of them aren't. But if they have those tools, they can thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are good at it, they should really be compensated for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why do you think companies do that? Like they just don't know enough about the inner workings of sales to know, like it's to me it looks like you're cooking a complicated dish in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
You can't just go, okay, go help yourself to whatever's in there, right? Because you're probably not going to have the things. You can't go like, there's certain things you need to have, but if you're not that cook, you don't know. Is it that they're ignorant? Is it that like why do we suck so bad at this?
You know, I haven't really understood it. It's something that's like, oh, this is just how everyone does it. So they'll hire like 4 salespeople planning on only one working out. And it's like, that's because it's the only person that you were like, sink or swim, and they swam. And like, what about these other people? Like, what if you could just hire well and have what you need for them to succeed? Yeah. And it's just like this kind of twisted, it's the way it's always been done thing. That is like the reason that innovation and progress are stifled and suffocated in any environment. And I just see so very few, I've almost never seen a productive sales environment, because the other thing that people do is they mess up their compensation. They give them really weird goals and really weird compensation. And if somebody is selling for you and you're paying them a lot, like, you should be happy.
Yes.
They're making you money. I just talked to another salesperson who was like, they reduced my commission. It's like, why would they do that? Like somebody that's going to demotivate somebody.
Totally.
Like, but again, like comp plans and goals never make sense in any sales environments. It's so broken.
He's so broken. So I have a good friend, a young guy who's in high ticket sales. He crushes. Like he made millions of, like, I've only known him a couple of years. He's sold millions and millions, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And this place he is, he's like, they just changed the comp package for, like the compensation from 10% down to 2%. I'm like, what are they thinking?
That's a massive cut.
Yes. And then took away, like, it used to be inbound stuff was there. Nope. Now we got to go out and
are they going to pay it
and drag it back? I don't even know. I was just
you
like,
have to pay people for outbound back taffy. That can't be pay for performance if you're doing outbound.
PPA, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm like, this is insane. So, I mean, this is nuts. So we've got greed and ignorance.
Yeah, they look at their line items and they see expenses, and then the sales expense is the highest one. And they say, oh, we can save money if we pay them less. Oh, you know what? You're going to have less income.
Yes, that's so stupid. That's not like an expense like, oh, my internet is too high. This is what's feeding your business. It's short-sightedness then. Okay, it's
so like painfully dumb.
Yes, that's amazing. All right, so I have so many questions. I'm gonna try to keep them like, okay, so from a business perspective, like business owners, if they want to bring in a high ticket salesperson, what elements should they have there? Like ready-made, what should be stocked in the kitchen?
So this is going to sound, a lot of it's going to sound real basic, and then some of it's going to be like unexpected. But the basics that most people don't have is like, how do I get paid? When do I get paid? How do I set up getting paid? Who are the contacts that I need if something needs to be done with client onboarding, if something needs to be done with admin, if something's wrong with my tech? They need to have contacts for each of those people. Then there's also like how to use the CRM. They need to have a CRM, and like, what does the onboarding process look like for a client? They need to have payment links. So yeah, like, and ideally they've done a test payment and onboarding before they ever take sales calls. So they're not like doing it on their first call.
Yeah.
It's the things that are less expected that people really aren't thinking of are like, what does the client see before a sales conversation?
Okay.
Is there some kind of video, marketing, emails? Like, what does that look like? So you know the frame or the mindset of the person who's coming in. Then FAQs, of course, testimonials, and ideally like in an Excel sheet that has it organized by like, this was the challenge before and this was after.
Yeah.
They can reference it really easily. And like differentiators, like the big differentiators of the program, and differentiators specifically compared to competition and who the competition is. And it doesn't have to be a company, but like, let's say, for example, you're doing Facebook social ads. Well, the competition could be a webinar or a summit or cold DMs or whatever. Like, there are alternatives for lead generation, and you want to know how to position this directly against that. And then ideally a sales framework.
How about that?
That somebody and recorded sales calls that were won.
Oh, that's good too. Yeah. I mean, that takes some effort though. This is not going to just be like, this isn't stuff you just have laying around necessarily. You got to actually plan like, hey, I'm bringing a salesperson on. I'm going to put these components together for them. It shouldn't take months or months, right? I mean, this is
no, especially if you have like really, you need to have at least one other person on your team before you're bringing on a salesperson. Like, you should not be doing that as a solopreneur because you're not set up to fulfill it. Like, a salesperson is about scale. Yes. So if somebody's just like, oh, I just hate sales calls, so I want to hand them off. Okay, that's not the right situation to bring on a salesperson. That means that you have a sales strategy that is out of alignment. Yes. That's why you hate it.
And you're going to always hate it, and they're going to hate it, and they're not going to do well. Like, if you don't even have this stuff.
And they can't sell and make money because you can't fulfill at any kind of scale. So, and you don't have any direction for them. So it's just going to be a huge waste of time and money, and like very discouraging. And what you should do is get a sales strategy that is effective for you and in alignment first. Call me. And then we can bring on the salesperson. Yeah. And have like some things in place for fulfillment too beforehand. So wait, what was the original question?
Yeah, like what kinds of things should they have in place, before they bring in?
You have to gather them. So ideally you have an EA or someone that can gather these things for you.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. That's huge. And it also seems like if you've done the sales for your own thing, you're going to know a lot more about like, how does this, that's going to help you to bring on a salesperson when the time comes and you're ready to scale. If you have sold successfully, like you've had the opportunity to tweak everything, what's there. Like, okay, here's how I do onboarding. Here's how, like, you have all these pieces. Whereas if you're just trying to avoid, like, I don't like to sell, like, right, fine.
You're not going to, your stuff isn't dialed in at all. You're almost like not going to be able to tell someone what the differentiators are. Because another thing that's important to include is like the target audience and their challenges and their doubts and their desires and stuff like that. So, I mean, hopefully you bring on a salesperson who has experience with your particular target audience and they kind of know how this conversation goes. Yes. But it's still really helpful to have that. If you're just like, ooh, I don't like sales, you haven't figured out any of these things probably.
Right. And then so I'm going to just go out on a limb and say, if you're saying that and you just want to bring somebody in anyway, you probably don't talk to your people at all, which is, I get it. I became a writer, so I would never have to talk to a person. But life does not work that way.
But you're so lovely.
I'm lovely. Like, I always joke. I'm like, I'll talk to, like, it's fine once I have somebody, but I will never approach, like, at a party, I'm like, never mind. I'm not going to even do that. But it's like, if so many entrepreneurs that I know would much rather like, hey, I'll send a poll. Hey, I'll whatever. But they never actually have a conversation with their people because that's terrifying to a lot of people. And it's like, we were promised, when the internet businesses came along, you could talk in your work in your pajamas, never have to talk to a person. No, that's not actually reality. And the more you talk to your people, the more it's going to be really satisfying, first of all. And you're going to have in their words why they want what you got. or don't.
I mean, as a writer, you know that their language is the most important language to include. And market research is a really great strategy for talking to people, and you offer something of value to them. So you're like, in exchange, I will give you whatever you have that you can give them. Because your time is valuable, or even if it's like a freaking gift card or something, like, and those conversations a lot of times can lead to sales too.
That's an amazing thing. All right, that's cool. So folks, if you're hoping to bring on a salesperson, at least get these things in and do it yourself at first, like have it dialed in and be ready. Like this is for scaling. This is not to survive. So.
This is not like, I hate doing this, so I'm gonna hand it off. Yeah, because they think a lot of times like, well, I don't have to pay them unless they make sales. And so they're like, ooh, but like, you have to think about being the person. Like, do I want to figure all this stuff out, do all of this foundational work that does have value, that should be compensated, do it for free, build my pipeline of leads that you do not have for free so that I can close one sale for you and make a commission?
Yeah. No, the answer is no. I don't want to. Thank you.
If somebody says they're going to do that, they're not going to be good at it. You're not going to get talent. That's for sure.
Or they're going to be looking for something better immediately.
Oh, yeah. Yes, totally.
Now, a good salesperson, I think, could probably sell just about whatever, so they have lots and lots and lots of opportunities. It's not like you're the only game in town, folks. So
you're like, I have no leads and I have no information for you, but I will pay you if you make a sale. And they think that's like a really good offer. It's like,
even if it's like 50%, like, okay, I don't care. I can't.
50% of nothing is zero.
Thanks for the math.
Yeah, like totally.
Oh,
and
man.
That person will also be upset when they have to pay the salesperson 50%. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah. Which is so bizarre. It's so backwards. It's like, all right, if I'm paying you 10,000, it's because you just made me, 30, 40, 50,000. Like, oh, of course. Like,
it's just human. It's so strange. I don't know how it happens, if it's like the way we're raised or what, but it's like definitely a thing.
It is. It is a thing. All right, now let's shift this a little bit. And what I promised the nice people who are here is that maybe they could learn some tips from you on selling so that they don't feel like a douchebag, because that is the worst, like I knew when I was doing it, I knew the program was going to really help people that did it, like literally life or death in some cases. Right. Wow. And I still felt slimy. Yeah. I just didn't like, I couldn't, there was a script I was supposed to follow. I think that was part of the thing. So I was sales on demand. So
that script is brutal.
Grueling and brutal. And I knew the overcoming objections, the come to Jesus conversation was coming. I knew that was coming from the beginning. I started, I'm sat with a jar of Tums on my desk because I was like,
you were just dreading it.
Praying everybody would cancel.
Yeah. So, I mean, so much of the mainstream sales methods position like objection handling for the end, like it's this battle or something, and there's a winner and a loser. And so really, I mean, my philosophy is based on if it's a fit, it's a fact, and there's no selling involved, which means that the entire conversation is simply understanding if somebody's a fit. And the way that you do that is on a basic, generic, simplified level. What's going on right now? What have you tried? What do you want? Is it something that I can do? And what are your expectations? And are those things that I do? And is your timeline realistic? And if all of those things match up, then like, let's roll, because I can say that I will do all those things that you are wanting. And so it's just about getting curious and really leaving space for them to not be a fit. Like it's okay if they're not a fit. Mainstream sales, the only goal is a yes in a sales conversation. And then in black sheep sales, it's really like, if it's not a fit, I want to point you somewhere else. And so like mainstream sales will say that in a conversation, like if it's not a fit, I'll do it. But they're not serious. They're trying to push anybody in. So when you have this mindset of like, just the only goal here is understanding what is the best choice for this prospect, then no matter what objection they have, you're able to ask questions about it. So like, let's say that somebody's like, well, it seems really time consuming. It's like, well, how much time do you have?
Yeah.
Like, let's understand what that looks like, because you probably don't realize that this doesn't require as much time as you're thinking, or you don't realize how much time you have, or something like that. And it's just so not personal. Like, it is 100% about them. And like, they're not like, I don't know if I have time for you. It's like, they're thinking of like, am I going to have the time to make this work? What's required of me?
Yeah.
And you want to make sure they have the time for that too. If they don't have the time for that, then they're not a fit, and that is okay.
That's huge, because so in the other, in some other worlds of sales, the only answer to that is along the lines of, well, the time is going to pass whether you do it or not. What are you going to do in a year when it's, it's like, oh no, it's so
guilt,
it's guilt and manipulation.
They're using guilt, and what they do is they justify emotional manipulation because it's for the good of the other person. But it's like, if your offer's good, you don't need to emotionally manipulate anyone. Right. All people want to know is transparently, like, what is required from me for this? What is the worst case scenario? Yes. What is the average scenario? Like, you want to tell them, like, if you don't have this time, if you're not going to do these things, don't sign up. You're not going to get the results, straight up. Like, and let's be real with ourselves here. And is your resistance because you actually have something going on, or is it something else that you're just scared? And like, let's talk about that. What scares you about it? What makes you think you're not going to be able to do it? Is it valid? If it is valid, then you're not a fit, and that's okay, and don't do it.
Whole different thing. I love that you started this by saying, being curious. Because that's a whole different thing. Being curious and being desperate are very different states. Like being pushy and being curious, very, very different. That's and when you're curious, you can ask good questions that actually serve the other person.
Yeah, I mean, there are sales conversations where the person wants to buy just based on the questions you've asked, because you're giving them clarity that they didn't have before. A lot of times someone comes in knowing they have an issue, but they're not really sure why. And they don't really have hope that it could be different, which is where pitch weaving comes in. Like the black sheep sales conversation is an exchange the entire time versus mainstream sales, which is like an interrogation, basically. And then and you're not allowed to talk. Only the prospect talks. Okay. And they can't ask any questions. No, that's for later. Okay.
We'll get to that.
And then you talk for 10 minutes alone and reference all this stuff that they said that they don't remember.
Hey.
And then you ask and you keep it very high level, right? Like just the results. There's no clarity on what the hell it is.
Yeah.
And then it's such a huge focus on objections. So instead, there's this exchange the entire time. Like you're talking with the prospect when you're asking questions. You're giving them feedback on their answers.
Yeah.
You're letting them know what that sounds like to you and asking if that resonates with them. And the same thing during the quote unquote pitch part or the explanation of your services. You're asking questions about something like, does that sound different than what you've done before? Does that sound more effective? Does this feel like what you were wanting or what you had in mind? And all of those questions, they help both of you get clarity on whether this person is a fit.
That is fascinating. So normally in Main Street selling, you ask those questions because you are looking for a yes. They're telling you, get as many yeses in a row, and then you pop the press on, right?
Yeah.
But you actually want to know, does this sound different from what you've tried? If they say no, you're like, okay, cool. Tell me about
yeah, you want to know more. Because if they don't think it sounds different, they're not going to buy. So let's talk about it right now. Let's prevent objections as opposed to this just showdown.
Yes.
At the end. Let's understand what doesn't seem different about it. What were the other programs? And almost always, if you dig in with curiosity, you're going to find out that they didn't realize something.
Sure.
About what you said or about the other thing or whatever. And so many people just end up saying, let me think about it, or no, because the person wasn't curious enough to understand what was coming up for them.
Exactly. What's interesting? It's so I think anybody who does a high ticket, as a buyer of a high ticket program, the one big fear that always comes down, whether it's voiced or not, is, okay, great. I see it works for other people, but will it work for me? Right. And And the worst thing that happens, like I'm sure we've all been through programs where it was high ticket, you invested a lot, you went through, you did all the stuff, and you never quite felt like there was another human looking at what you were doing. So you never had that so you join a, oh, we're going to create this thing, like I'm going to teach you how to make whatever. And then, so you do it and you're like, you never really felt like somebody actually looked at what you'd done and said, yes, you did it right. And so you're never still sure. And you're like, I could have done this on my own. It was not interactive. It was not, like if it's a coaching thing, right? And so then at the end, you're like, I made something, but I don't know if it's going to work. Or if it doesn't work, you're like, what did I miss? Nobody told me, So the fact that you're asking these very good follow-up questions and the curiosity-driven questions during the thing, it's like, that is a whole different signal. Like, wait a second there. And then hopefully, whoever you're selling it for is also going to follow through with that. But it's like, then like, wait a second, they're actually paying attention. They actually see me. I'm not just in this mold. And
right,
I think that would build so much more trust. Like, wait a minute, they're not just going to rubber stamp me to say they have another success story, because I might not be at that point,
Yeah, totally. People, all they want in life, it's so rare to be seen and heard. Like, you just want to let people know, I see you, I hear you, and I acknowledge you. Like, it's what I call hope selling as opposed to pain selling. It's like, hey, I'm going to acknowledge that you've done some stuff and it hasn't worked out. And that's really frustrating. And a lot of people would have given up and you didn't. And that says a lot about what is possible for you. Let's build people up. Like, let's tell them what they're doing right. And like, you're just missing this one piece. And I'm so excited to see you when you have that piece. And you're very right about the group coaching thing. Like, and you would uncover that in the conversation. Like, well, you would have to ask so many questions to get what you told me out of the person. That's not something that you're just going to like tell the other person. Like, right. But through a series of questions, if somebody's just genuinely being curious, not scripted, you got to be in the moment.
Yeah.
The other person, then you can say, oh, okay, well, does it make a difference then that there are one-on-one sessions where you can ask those questions?
Right.
Yes, that does make a difference. Okay, great.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge. That's huge. And I love this. Like I think we want a script because we're scared. We're like,
so structure. Structure helps for sure. Like, this is the information you want to know. And this is the information that you want to communicate.
But I'm talking actual script. When I was craving a script because I was too scared. I was like, I'll read it like a human, but oh my gosh, because like when you're there, you're centered. You've got that confidence. It takes a different mindset to be curious rather than, oh my God, if I don't make this, I'm gonna, like, it's a whole different mindset. And so once you have that curiosity and that sense that like really like you're there to serve, that's a whole different conversation. And then you can be present, and then you can be curious and just there to help. I've felt the difference both ways. And yeah, if you're finding yourself craving an actual script, you might need to do a little work first.
Yeah, like that's a great point. You're probably not centered, and you're probably like, you have somebody who's directing you, who is making you doubt yourself or not trust yourself. So like, one of the things that when I work with a salesperson on somebody's team, a lot of it is helping them to listen to their intuition. Like, in a human conversation, if you're in this human conversation with anybody else that doesn't have to deal with the exchange of money, you would pick up on those nonverbal cues. You would say something. You would want to actually help them. So sometimes it helps to say, like, imagine your friend comes to you and is asking if they should break up with their partner. Are you just going to tell them your answer? No. Right. You're going to get curious before you recommend anything. So it's like really shifting it like it's any other conversation, because you have these skills, you have this intuition. And I just hate that like mainstream sales has twisted it and overcomplicated it and made it something like different. Yeah. And I think it's because it made them a lot of money to make it seem like that,
Oh, 100%. And then I think too, the salesperson gets a good case of commission breath, and then that makes it even harder to just relax. Like, wait, if I don't make this sale, I got 4 more calls today. My closing ratio is going to be, and it's
Totally.
yeah. All right, keep going. What else do we need?
I mean, that basic understanding is going to help a lot. That like curiosity and like setting your intention to be just understanding if this person is a match for what you do, or if they need to go somewhere else and get something else in place first. Right. So like, for example, let's say that a paid ads person is talking to someone who's considering paid ads. Their offer is brand new. That salesperson has a choice. They can let the person know, hey, you don't have anything tested or proven. So unless you have 3 months minimum of financial runway without a return expected, I would go figure some stuff out organically first and come back.
Yeah.
Or they can choose to sell that person, and that person will spend 3 months, waste their money, feel burned, and never come back. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people will choose that short-term option, thinking that makes them more money. But actually, the other way will make them more money because they'll refer people. They'll come back. They'll stay for a long time. So really, like, just changing that mindset is going to have such a huge impact. And then the other thing that makes a big difference is you cannot educate and sell in the same conversation.
All right, I've heard that before. Talk about that.
Yeah, so a lot of people, like, let's say, for example, Sue, somebody's coming on to talk to you about writing, and they want you to write for them, but they like expect instant results or something. And so a lot of times you have to explain like the customer journey. You might find yourself explaining the customer journey in a sales conversation a lot, and how nurturing is necessary, and how there's only like 2% of people who are ready to buy now or whatever. So instead of doing all of that in a sales conversation, you send it ahead of time. So they know coming into the call that if I'm going to have Sue write marketing for me that's going to turn into sales, I need a system. And it's not instantaneous, and it allows you to just talk about them and whether this makes sense for their business instead of educating and then talking about them.
Brilliant. I mean, it makes so much sense, but I've done that the other way. And it's an exhausting call then too, because you're just like, they feel like they've just had fire hose of information and now they got to make a decision on something. If you have like that, asking, they come to Jesus. So what is it? Yes, tell me no, but tell me fast. I got to go. That kind of thing. Like, they need to have time to digest some of the other stuff, that educational component, before they can make a smart decision. I mean, you'll get impulsive people that say yes, but again, it's probably not the best thing for them.
Well, and you'll know that you've overeducated when you hear, this is a lot to process.
Yes.
Let me think about it and get back to you. Like, that is a sure sign that they have to process all of the education that you've just told them about the industry, about the niche, about like whatever. They have to understand if that's true for them first before they can think about working with you. So it's a big one, and it makes a huge difference to like have some emails go out ahead of time with that. Or like for me, for example, I need to do more, but people were often getting on the calls and like, well, how are you different? And then I had to go into this whole how I'm different thing. And so ahead of time, now I just send my black sheep sales commandments. I'm like, hey, this is what I do, and it's real different. Okay. So I find that it's easier if I send these ahead of time to make sure that this resonates with you. And if it doesn't, that's totally cool. Let me know, and I will point you to somebody else. But like, I'm not going to do sales as a numbers game. You want somebody to like manage your accountability of filling out your Excel spreadsheet of outreaches and shit. Like, I'm not your girl, I'm not going to give you a script either. So the person can, if that's what they're looking for, it's not me. And they also know ahead of time, like, if they are my person, like, oh God, thank God she's not going to do all this shit.
That's so good. Yeah, like have those things beforehand. And I love it because if it's written, then they can reflect on, like they can read it a billion times if they need to. They can really, and then at any point before the call, they can go, yeah, I don't like that, that's fine. That's fine too. But, oh, I love that.
Totally. Yeah. So like for you, Sue, I mean, a big part of the pre-call education I really like doing with people is like, if you are this person, you are not a fit. If you are this person, I can't wait to talk to you. So like the you are not a fit is like, if you're looking for instantaneous sales and you do not have an email list, you need to go look at some other options.
Yeah.
That's not me, like you can just say it so that anybody else. And if you're looking for a system that's automated in the background and consistently brings in sales over time, I can't wait to talk to you.
Yes. Oh, I like that. It's so human, Aleasha.
It's just like all people want to know is transparency. Like everyone's like, what's the fine print? What are the exceptions? Am I an exception? What is a realistic expectation? Don't just tell me the best case scenario, because that's what everybody's doing.
Of course. If that worked, we'd all, be skinny, rich, and tan, right?
So true. Yeah. It's so true.
Oh man, that's awesome. All right. Other tips?
I mean, are there any questions or anything? Do you see questions?
I forget. Let me go pop over. I don't know. Oh crap. Hold on one second. Let's see.
Okay.
Internet did weird something.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
we're
it's
still
tough.
on. Let's see if it's got the event. It'll just take a moment here because there we go. There's the live producer. Yeah, I got a little. No, okay, we're good. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, the only other thing, there's a lot of layers, right? Sales is a complex subject.
Yes.
I would definitely check out my podcast and my solo episodes, which goes into every little thing you could think of. Yeah. The other thing that comes up a lot that's like a big question is asking for the business. How do I ask for the business? Yeah. So mainstream sales a lot of times will make you be silent, like completely silent.
Right. You're like, so any questions? And then you're waiting for them to say, well, how much?
You're not even, you say any questions and you wait for, okay. But then when you say the investment, you're not supposed to talk after that. Right. So like mute the phone, pinch yourself, like do whatever, but do not talk. And the reason that they say this is because a lot of times people will just babble.
Yes.
And unsell themselves. And so it's totally valid. Don't talk. But that is the most awkward way you could go about it, in some weird like standoff of silence. Like, who's going to talk first?
Whoever speaks first loses, right?
Yeah. Instead, I suggest asking, is that investment realistic for you right now?
That's so much more human.
Also, you're going to shut up because you just asked a question. Naturally, you're going to be quiet and wait for their answer. And naturally, they're going to give you one because you just asked a question. And it's also information that you want to know. And it opens up a conversation about finances. If it's not, let's talk about what that looks like. What would make it realistic? What other investments do you have going on right now? Would credit or a payment plan be helpful? Or, like that's really sets the stage for continuing that collaborative, transparent conversation that you've had the whole time.
So good. Oh my gosh, this is so great. All right. So you have a podcast. What is its name?
Sales is not a dirty word.
I love it. All right. And where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So, I mean, that podcast is definitely the best way. And then I will send them the free chapter. That book's coming out soon. And I've had some early readers read it. And I mean, I know that people a lot of times are like, oh yeah, this is great. So like maybe they're lying to me, but they do kind of like elaborate a lot more whenever they're saying it's great. Like they say that this is genuinely really different and they're going to implement it and they get results. And so download that free chapter and you'll get to buy the digital version, the Kindle version, for 99 cents on the day it comes out if you're on that list. Sue, did I lose you?
Yeah.
Oh, now you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. I hate that. Sorry.
Totally.
Yes. Oh man. Oh, fantastic. This is so, so good. All right. And then I always ask, like, what is your favorite way to spend time outdoors that always gets you really good ideas? And do you have any like amazing ideas that you can pinpoint going, I got this one outside?
Man, for me, it's like water. Like if I'm looking at water, something about water, I don't know, like a river or a lake or an ocean, it just like reminds me of how small we are and how timeless things are. You think the river cares that AI is happening? No, that river's going to keep flowing. Like it does not care. It just kind of grounds me in the idea that nothing is urgent or serious.
Ah, that's pretty good. That is good because our brains do some weird stuff as entrepreneurs. Like
everything feels like we are ER surgeons. So sometimes I have to remind myself, like, no one's gonna die. Like everyone's gonna be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. That is so great. That is so great, man. Anything I should have asked you that I didn't think to?
No, I feel like we were really thorough as much as we could be, in an hour.
Yeah. That's awesome. This is so great. This is so great. All right. Your book comes out this month? No, October.
In October, right? Yeah. So really soon. I'm very excited about that. So it's, we'll see what happens, but
so good.
I also have done some Salesy Steve sketches that are promoting it. Did you see my Salesy Steve sketch?
No, I need to see that. Please send me the link and I'll share it.
Yeah, it's sketch comedy. So I'm like,
have you done that before?
Yeah, like, but not for work. So I'm like in a bald cap with a muscle suit.
Oh.
Yeah.
I gotta see that.
Yeah. So I will send it to you.
Please do. That's so cool. And the book title again?
It is Black Sheep Sales: How to Win More Sales Without Acting Like a Douchebag.
Love it. All right, folks. Head over to Amazon. Can we pre-order? Is that a thing?
No, not yet. But you can download the free chapter.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Cool. Yes. We'll do that. I'll give them links. All right.